thank you ever so much for joining us. For those of you who have been to our Women in Tech events before, welcome again. And those who haven't, I really do hope this will be the start of a good network and a good group and a community of individuals who, all have something to say. Especially, obviously, as you know, this event was originally set up in a sort of face-to-face fashion. So we used to do often involved alcohol, if I'm honest, gin tasting, wine tasting, meetups in sort of Birmingham and in London, way before the pandemic. And then we were able to take it online and actually really explore through the series that we've done in the Women in Tech for Crimson. As part of the Harvey Nash group, we were able to really explore some really fascinating themes, and we've had some great discussions over the last couple of years, and we continue to do so, which is fantastic. So thank you all. So let me just take you on to the next bit. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Lou. I head up the recruitment business here at Crimson. I've been working with Crimson for just over 8.5 years now, and a few years ago we were pleased to be able to join the Harvey Nash Group through a merger and acquisition, and I'm also part of the Global Diversity and Inclusion Council as part of the Harvey Nash Group as well. My background, I've got over 20 years experience recruiting technology specialists, including roles from consultant all the way through to management positions at the likes of LaFosse Associates, Robert Walters and Aston Carter in my early days in the cutthroat world of financial services in London for IT. I've got 2 young children, 3 with my new partner and Rex, the little one, who's 4. So that's definitely taken me back. And I'm currently extending my home. If I write that down, it may actually happen. So we've got the plans, underway. But yeah, the chap seems less motivated as myself. So if I keep saying it and writing it down, it may actually kick off at some point. So Christine, obviously just on screen there. Do you want to introduce yourself just briefly rather than me?
Yeah, I'm Chris. I work with Crimson CIO search business alongside Ian McKean as the senior researcher. I am a Harvey Nash. I've been with Harvey Nash Group for over 15 years now, but predominantly sort of working within the not-for-profit sector, government, etc., working with the C-suite, CTOs, CIOs, CDIOs, CISOs. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. And Christine is an absolutely fantastic mother with daughter Ava, who we are always entertained with many a picture of Irish dancing and competitions and fantastic wigs and hair that they seem to be able to put on. So again, a working mum of a gorgeous little girl. So Crimson, who are we? So for those of you who know, we are a really interesting business. We've got a recruitment business, so we provide IT recruitment services predominantly all over the UK for customers UK-wide, ranging from everything in support right the way through, as Christine mentioned, to the executive search part of the world of recruitment. We also have an IT solutions business who are a Microsoft Gold partner, and we have a consultancy practice of over 100 employees, working quite closely actually with key sectors around higher education, housing, house builders, not-for-profit type organisations, as well as local government, to name a few, and they're doing a fantastic job. And then obviously, as Christine mentioned, our CIO search practice, whilst heavily recruitment bias, actually really does overlap quite nicely with obviously our solutions business. So the Women in Tech events, today's event has previously been exclusive for female leaders and women in tech. However, on recent discussions, we felt this topic really kind of made us all feel we needed to start really broadening our audience, really extending the network and inviting those non-female members of our network to actually join, because it's some menopause and nutrition especially is something which everyone is affected with at various different points, whether as a partner, a husband, friend, or as a working colleague. So that was something we felt quite passionate about. We like to feel that we've got insightful speakers. We have open discussions. There's no judgment. Today's session is being recorded, but we are going to edit any personal names or any questions out. I seem to have a bit of feedback, actually. Apologies if you can hear that. And obviously, it's all about having fun, meeting others and feeling comfortable to talk about things which matter, and that you want to share and get some thought-provoking ideas from others. And there's some nice pictures of us there at one of our previous events with the wine, as you can see. So menopause, why are we talking about it today? Well, as you can see, we had Hopefully you can see some of those comments there, a little bit small, but we had some really interesting feedback from both customers and colleagues, and there's just a few shared there, and I'll just give you a moment to just read those if you can for yourselves. Whether any of those resonate with you. The one on the top right particularly struck a chord, you know, for someone to feel so in need of, so lost in themselves to consider certain thoughts, you know, and no matter how small or great the thoughts and the experiences you have are, it's all really important that we talk about it and we, you know, break any biases around menopause and what it is and what it means and how it impacts and affects others. So today's speaker, I'm pleased to announce, is Clare Shepherd. Absolutely gorgeous picture of you there, Clare. You know, Clare is an award-winning nutritional therapist, menopause health coach, and speaker. Her own experience of an early menopause, after her own experience of an early menopause, Clare was determined that other women shouldn't struggle as she did, and she offers now a wealth of natural health advice via workshops and speaking events to empower women to live their lives as best as they can, and always through menopause and beyond. So today the topic is discovering healthy habits for menopause and beyond. Now, before we introduce Clare, or before Clare introduces her own presentation, Clare, I'm just going to come off the screen now.
Oh, great. So hello, everybody. That is a great picture of me, isn't it? It was taken in a very, very posh studio with lots of proper lights, and it was about 4 years ago. So, you know, I've aged a lot in 4 years, particularly since pandemic. So, yeah, I'm really excited about sharing information with you today. I've got lots and lots of information for you. I'm going to be covering today, and I'm going to be talking really, really fast because there's so much to do. I'm going to cover what menopause is, what causes it, when it begins, and all sorts of information to help you know your menopause. And oh, there we are. I'm going to share symptoms that can affect you at home and at work, when and how to seek the best medical advice and support. Really, this is my favorite bit actually, the greatest hormone disruptor that is adding to any menopause struggles, and of course strategies that you can employ to help yourself, including some really simple nutrition advice. So I will pause a few times to ask you questions, and please put them in the chat as well, and Lou will pick those up and share those with me. But basically, I'm really informal. It's not a formal thing at all. Just join in. Let's see where it takes us. I could talk forever, so I will try and keep this within the time that we've got. So I will share that video with you. I just need to take control of this. Okay, so we're going to know your menopause. I'd like to take you back to the beginning. In the beginning, there's a story behind this. So I'm going to also take myself off video because I have a habit of waving my arms around, and it's distracting. So in the beginning, you have the most eggs when you are a 5-month-old fetus, which is incredible. Female babies are born with around 2 million eggs in their ovaries, but we actually only have 400 to 500 periods in our lifetime. In fact, the average number.
Clare, we've just lost your sound slightly.
I don't know why. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you.
You may have hovered. Your arms might have been waving.
You see, that's it. So did I get to, you've got 2 million eggs as a fetus?
Yeah,
okay.
400 periods, about
444. Don't forget the 44 periods, which is, you know, oh, great joy in life, isn't it, really? But these ovarian eggs die off at a rate of about 10k a month prior to puberty, and then about 1,000 a month thereafter. Now, you've probably heard of the hormones estrogen and progesterone, and these play a really very significant part in the menstruation cycle that, you know, you may experience over the next 30 to 40 years. So I just find that fact absolutely amazing, that 2 million eggs as a 5-month-old fetus. But what happens over time is that the eggs stored in the ovaries start to run out, and the levels of the hormone estrogen in particular begins to fluctuate and becomes much more erratic. And it's this change in biology that is the start of perimenopause, the lead up to menopause, and it just becomes erratic. And this is when these symptoms that will actually start creeping up on you, and you just don't wake up overnight and find, oh my gosh, here it is, menopause is on its way, here are the symptoms, this is what I've got to do. They creep up on you, and those symptoms can be both physical and definitely mental, emotional, and I'll explore some of those with you as well. So it's difficult to realize when you're perimenopausal, and I'd just like to explain a little bit about what menopause is. So what is it? This diagram in the fertility years is a little bit deceiving, isn't it? Because of those 444 periods that you may experience, it's probably not going to be a straight line for everybody of estrogen and progesterone. They're going to be dips in your monthly cycle. So just for illustration purposes, hopefully those dips are going to be fairly consistent over that time. Around the age of 45, this is when we tend to start losing a lot, or we've lost a lot of the eggs. We do have fewer eggs left in our ovaries. And I mentioned that estrogen tends to go a little bit erratic, and you can see that through this perimenopause phase with the pink line. So it's a real roller coaster where estrogen is concerned. And progesterone is also a little erratic, but it goes down in a much more even. So estrogen has a mind of its own, and there is no definite course to the way that estrogen will behave. It will just do its own thing. And say progesterone falls in a much more even curve, but it's this rise and fall of estrogen in particular, and that fall of progesterone, that contributes to a myriad of symptoms that may be experienced. In the UK, age 51 tends to be the time when you've not had a period for 12 months. And that one day when you've not had a period for 12 months is actually menopause. That's the clinical definition of menopause. Anything prior to that one day is perimenopause. Anything after that one day is postmenopause. But we're pretty idle in the UK particularly, and we tend to refer to the whole journey as menopause. And I'm guilty of that as well. And you probably hear me say it throughout this presentation as well. So when I am saying menopause, I'm genuinely referring to the whole journey from when symptoms start presenting to when the symptoms finish. But I really want you to just be aware that menopause is actually clinically one day when you've not had a period for 12 months. So I said that the average age is 51, but is it that the same for everybody? Well, it isn't. And we could have shown, well, when you watch the video, you'll be able to see that there's one girl who's diagnosed age 14. And I myself went through an early menopause. So let's have a look at that. The average age in the UK is 51, not have a period for 12 months. But 5 in 100 women will experience an early menopause, and that's between the ages of 40 to 45. And 1 in 100 women will experience menopause under the age of 40. That's referred to as premature ovarian insufficiency or, excuse me, deficiency. And there can be, that's a lot of women, isn't it? You know, that when you think of all the people you know, all the people in your business, that's a lot of women who are going through possibly the trauma and struggles of menopause and really not know what's happening to their body and their mind. And it's something, I think this is something we should really, really be aware of. And there are also lots of different reasons for the onset of menopause. There could be chemotherapy, chromosomal difficulties, defects, genetic and autoimmune conditions, smoking, low BMI, and even ethnicity. I can't get my word out. Ethnicity. Yes, your ethnic origins can also contribute to when you stop your periods. For example, ladies in the BAME community, I think the average age is around 46. So there is no textbook to menopause, absolutely none whatsoever. So what are the symptoms? Over 34 are recognised, and I'll focus on just a few of those in the next minute or two. But the most common ones, as you can see for here, are hot flushes and night sweats. There's poor sleep, there's irritability, heavy and light periods, mood swings, tiredness. I went through an early menopause in my 30s. I had no idea what was happening to me. And it was a really, really fearful time. But during that time, I found out I had endometriosis alongside, which wasn't helping. And during that time, I didn't have one single hot flush. So none of these are inevitable, but they can be multitudinous and varied. Let me just pick out 3. So I think somebody's got their mic on. Just rustling of papers around. Just excuse me a second, I just need to clear my throat. Sorry about that. Okay, so I call this a negative menopause cycle. And I just picked out 3 as an example here. The poor sleep and the brain fog and anxiety, because even looking at the slides that Lou showed, you could see that those 3 actually came up in each of one of those as well. So none of these symptoms are inevitable, but they are actually interconnected. They are connected, and every woman's journey is unique, and being pre-warned is definitely pre-armed. And I really, really want to encourage you, as we go through this slide, to be proactive in your health as you go through the menopause transition, and not be reactive, because I can assure you that you can get the very best life that you can live if you do be proactive in this. So this is a negative menopause cycle, and you can see that if you wake up in the morning and you've got poor sleep or fatigue, you're going to be fatigued, and you're possibly going to be stressed as well. And then during the day, whether you're at home or you're at work, that stress can contribute towards brain fog. Just because of the biochemical changes that happen in the body. You don't think as clearly, you don't have such great clarity, you're not as logical when you're in a state of stress. You might recall when you've made some dreadful decisions when you've been in a state of stress. I certainly have. So that stress and that brain fog actually contributes towards more stress, and that stress contributes towards anxiety and possibly poor performance. And that anxiety then contributes towards even greater insomnia and poor sleep, because your mind is whirring and you're wondering what the heck what's going on to your body and how you can manage this time as best that you can. So I just wanted to show this at this time, just to illustrate exactly that everything is connected. And let's take that a little bit further. Right, okay, so let's explore and delve into those symptoms a little bit more and how they can affect you at home and at work. So the poor sleep contributes towards fatigue, and that fatigue and stress contribute towards brain fog. Brain fog leads to concentration issues, difficulty making decisions, as I said before, contributes to greater anxiety and stress. And that anxiety and stress can contribute towards poor performance, low mood and panic attacks, loss of confidence, lack of self-worth, depression, and that goes back towards poor sleep. So these symptoms cannot be taken in isolation. You cannot just focus on the physical symptom, because each of those physical symptoms contributes towards mental, emotional symptoms as well. And in the workplace, just this cycle here can be really, really destructive. I hope you can't hear my dogs barking there. Are you all right? Oh, good. They're making an awful lot of noise. Yeah, and yes, I'll talk about that in a second. So just before I go on, have you got any questions at all about menopause itself, when it can happen, the symptoms that you may experience? And I'm just teasing you a little bit here with how it can affect you mentally and emotionally at home and at work.
Claire, we have a question from Nikki Greenway.
Yeah.
What age constitutes late menopause, and what are the implications?
That's a really good question.
I think she joined just after you'd shared the graph, but what age constitutes late menopause, and what are the implications?
Yeah, I don't think there's any particular set, I don't believe there's any particular set age that is classed as a late menopause. Clinically, it's 51 is in the UK anyway, is the date that they expect your periods to have stopped or be stopping. I've worked with women who have not had a period for 11 months and 11 days, and then they've had another one and they've got to go for another year before they have it. I've got women who, a woman at the moment who's age 57, and she has yet to stop having periods for 12 months. So to my knowledge, there is no set day when it is a set age when it's classed as late menopause, but anything beyond 51, 52, say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've also got another question, Claire, from Lucy. Does the 12 months plus 1 day after a hysterectomy class as of menopause?
Oh, I'm not quite sure you mean there, Lucy. I had a hysterectomy when I was 39, so that sent me straight into a surgical menopause. I didn't have to wait 12 months and a day.
So effectively, it went straight to menopause.
It goes straight into, it's classed as a surgical menopause, yeah.
And Claire, just another one here. How do you know if you are experiencing early onset? The symptoms could mask as something else.
Yeah,
what
that's
happens,
really...
for example, if you're on the contraceptive pill,
yeah.
will this also mask the symptoms?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really great question. And yes, if you've got the Mirena coiling or you've got a contraceptive pill, yes, it can mask the symptoms for sure. I'm going to give you a little session on when and how to talk to your doctor to explore this with them. So hopefully that will help you, Laura. Yeah, no, they mentioned, you just don't wake up one night or one morning and think, oh, this is it, I'm in perimenopause. These symptoms are many, they're varied, they're unique to every single one of you. All your journeys are going to be unique. How you manage it is going to be unique. So, yeah, you just, it's a sad thing. I'm just going to have to clear my voice again.
No worries, Claire. Well, while you're doing that, we've just got 2 more questions and then we'll let you move on. So just mindful of time. So Joanna, do blood tests show perimenopause? Do blood tests show perimenopause? And then Natalie had a question around birth control. Can you have menopause while still on birth control?
Yeah. Well, yes, yeah, I'm going to, yes, but no, but yes, but, yes, okay, it can be masking it. Another question was, do blood tests show perimenopause, Joanna? Yes, they can, but your doctor may not be keen on doing those. And I'm going to explore that with you when I get down to the medical section of the presentation.
Thanks, Claire. We'll move on then. That's great. I'll keep an eye on the questions for you.
All right. Sorry, I keep losing my voice here. I think it's because I got up too early. Oh dear. So let's have a look at the workplace. And I'm going to be fairly brief with this, but I do know that there's some HR and line managers present. So let's have a little look at the workplace ones. Okay. So there's a little bit of a poll here. I don't know if you can show the poll, Holly. If not, don't worry. I'll just ask the question and you can think about it in your heads. So my questions to you are, oh, look, brilliant. What percentage of women consider leaving work due to menopause symptoms? 0 to 30, 30 to 60, or 60 to 90? great.
You seeing that in the chat, Claire? You've got
I can see that,
yeah.
Fantastic.
So most people here, 31 to 6, well,
31
0 to 30%, 24%,
yeah.
31 to 60%, 60%, and 61 to 90%, 15%.
Brilliant. Excellent.
Quite clear.
And what percentage of women actually leave work due to menopause symptoms? 5%, 10%, or 15%? That's really, really interesting. I'm going to share the results with you in a sec. So the majority of you think it's 15%. Yeah, really interesting. Okay, thank you for that. Let's have a look at the answers. 4 in 10 women, so you're absolutely right with that, consider leaving work due to symptoms, and 1 in 10 do, so that's 10%. So I find it really interesting that the women here possibly feel that their symptoms, or people they know have had symptoms, are struggling more than actually are leaving work due to their symptoms. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. So the ONS, so 47% of the current workforce is female, huge. 3.5 million women over the age of 50 are in work, massive number of people. 59% of those women have already taken a day off work due to symptoms, and some of those women actually couldn't say why they'd left. They had a day off work. They just couldn't articulate the reason they had the day off work. They just didn't feel right. 4 in 10 women actually consider leaving work due to symptoms, and 1 in 10 actually do. So I'm not very good at maths, but that strikes me as an awful lot of women who are potentially struggling in the workplace and could do with a little bit of help, but it can also help themselves. So what I suggest for people in the workplace is ask if there are guidelines and policies in place. 72% of businesses don't have any guidelines and policies in place yet. This is in the UK. But there's a big movement to ensure that happens. There's a big movement going through Parliament that's going to really encourage every business to have some guidelines or policies in place for that. And open conversations with your line managers. Now, I know this can be tough. It can just be really, really tough. There are ways of doing it, and hopefully there would be guidelines and policies in place that would encourage you to open conversations in a safe and trusting manner. But if you can open conversations, that would be absolutely fantastic. Talk about it with your colleagues, where there's a water fountain or one of those big plastic bottles full of water, or buy a notice board or copy machine or anything. Talk about it. Don't hold it in. You can't break a taboo. We can't get the change that women need where menopause is concerned if we don't shout out and talk about it. And it can be such a lonely place. I mean, I was only in my 30s, but this was before the age of Dr. Google. So I had no idea. I had no opportunity to research. I had no friends who were feeling and going through the same as I was. And it can be a really lonely and fearful place to be. But unless we start talking about it more, unless we're creating opportunities to chat, unless we're having these conversations, opening lines of communication, then we're not going to get anywhere. And that those 1 in 10 women will still struggle sufficiently and leave their place of work. And that's a lot of experience that's lost, an awful lot of experience that's lost. So there is a little bit of, there's something you can do to help do that. I think this is actually, I might mention this here. I'm going to put my video back on if I can find the right slot to do that on this. Oop, there we go. Right, okay. I'm going to just introduce you to something. You can see behind me a poster. Yeah. Jolly good. Thanks, Lou, for nodding your head. Okay. I mentioned a little earlier, I'm a co-founder of a campaign called Positivity that you may have heard of or may not have heard of. It's big on Twitter. We started about 2.5-3 years ago with the intent of getting this poster in every single GP surgery in the UK. We managed it in Wales really quite quickly. We've struggled and banged our head against the brick wall in England. But what we found was, and we've had the most tremendous support. We've had fantastic celebrities behind us. We've presented in Parliament to MPs. We were part of this menopause revolution that's going on about getting more guidelines and policies in place in workplaces, about getting the HRT prescription down to once a year, charges down to once a year. So there's a lot going on. But what we found was that this poster was being downloaded and pinned up on notice boards in workplaces. It was being put on the back of toilet doors in workplaces. It's just being slapped on walls in workplaces by those water fountains or machines in workplaces. And it's seeing this that is actually starting and opening those conversations. It's completely free to download. There's a support pack that goes alongside it. And some of that support pack, I'm going to be some of the information I put in that support pack, I'm going to be sharing with you today. So please do download this because can be really, really helpful.
Thank you, Claire. Is that Positivity, did you say?
Yeah, I've lost the chat. So
no worries. So PAUSIBIT.
Positivity.co.uk.
Thank you.
And that's completely free, and it will back up some of the stuff that I'm sharing with you today as well.
Fab.
Okie dokie, so great. Ooh, sharp intake of breath here. All right, so how can, if you're in HR or line manager or something, how can you support an employee during the menopause transition? Well, the important thing is obviously to educate line managers, and I'm going to be sharing some information with you today that I already have, that is a bit of an education. There's more that can be done, and there are people that will do that too. Consider how symptoms impact an employee at work, identify and agree possible reasonable adjustments, signpost areas of support, encourage employees to speak openly, and provide, and this is my passion, provide colleagues self-care training, because I mentioned that we have to be proactive during this time. It's not about being reactive. It's not about us expecting our doctor to make everything better for us. It's not about expecting our workplace to make things better for us. We are also responsible for helping ourselves, and that closes the gap, and it gives greater respect if the employer knows that the employee is doing what they can to help themselves. It's really great. And there's some fantastic opportunities also to have like these talks that have been arranged. There are like little menopause cafes that could perhaps be arranged in workplaces, but any opportunity would be absolutely great. Again, this is a big subject all on its own. And if you are interested, there's some CIPD resources that you could refer to. Again, these are totally free. There's one for colleagues and line managers. So it's good to have a look at those and see what is available. But just to reassure everybody, work is in progress, but it's so slow, so very, very slow to get any change done. But there you go. We're trying, we're on it. So any questions about that? Now, perhaps in the workplace shouldn't be directed at me, but I'm happy to help if I can.
We've not got any in the chat, but if anyone wants to come on mic and ask Claire a question directly, please feel free, or raise your hand and we can grab you.
Oh yeah, thanks for sharing.
We'll move on.
We actually have that poster in lots of different languages as well. So anyway, moving swiftly on. So talking to your GP, I saw 7 doctors in 7 years, and I was fobbed off every time. I was given pills and potions and scans and this, that, and the other. And at no time did anyone consider it would be hormonal, the symptoms I was experiencing. At no time did anybody think it could be endometriosis. The average time it takes to be diagnosed with endometriosis is 7 years, which is criminal, absolutely criminal. And it was a chance conversation with a friend of mine who is an acupuncturist who said, "Oh, it sounds to me like going through menopause." Now, don't be so stupid. I'm like 39. How can this possibly be? That only happens to old people. But it doesn't only happen to old people, as we now know. It happens to a lot of people, a lot of women, when they're much, much younger. So it's really important that you, when you see your GP, that you make the most of that appointment and leave feeling heard and leave feeling that you have got the best advice. You feel reassured when you leave. Here I am. Sorry, I've left my video on. You feel reassured about it. So let's have a little look about what doctors know. And as I said, there is also a movement to ensure that all doctors have mandatory training in menopause, because at the moment they don't. The NICE guidelines, which were only introduced in 2015 for menopause, which is again is criminal. They were slightly updated in 2019. You can go online and check out this for yourself, but this is pretty much what they say. You will only be diagnosed as menopausal if you struggle with hot flushes and irregular periods. I didn't have hot flushes. I did have irregular periods. In fact, the irregular periods and flooding twice at work, which was very embarrassing in a very male open plan office, was what contributed towards me leaving work. And you'll never believe it, I actually worked in IT, but it was a long time ago when we were doing binary. Charles Babbage. But yeah, so they will go on only on the symptoms you present. So hot flushes and irregular periods, or if you've not had a period for 12 months, because we know that that is clinically menopause, or you've had a hysterectomy. Well, it's not a lot to go on, really. They can do a blood test. They will only do a blood test. It's called for FSH, that's follicle stimulating hormone. If you are between ages 40 and 45 with the above symptoms, I don't know what that proves really, or if you're less than 45 and menopause is suspected for any other reason, you know, I mentioned chemotherapy and other low BMI and other possibilities. The reason they don't, and you know, I do understand why they don't do this FSH test, is if we go back to that slide I showed you about menopause and showed you the ups and downs of estrogen, that roller coaster ride of estrogen. You could take your FSH levels one day and it show you to be menopausal. You could take it the following day and you wouldn't be. So I do understand why they don't necessarily use that as a tool all of the time. But it's a shame, isn't it, that we don't have anything that answers a question that somebody asked earlier that tells you when you are in menopause. It's really difficult. We have to do our own homework. We have to be proactive and take responsibility for ourselves. So how can we do that? Well, it's not all hot flushes and irregular periods, as I shared about me, but this is what you can do to prepare yourself before a doctor's visit. It's not very clear. I'm sorry about that, but it is downloadable for free in that positivity pack. I've put it in there so you can get it from there. It's the power of tracking your own unique symptoms. And I've mentioned a few times before, you are unique. Your symptoms will be unique. They won't be the same next year as they were last year. So plotting your symptoms can be really, really powerful. Do it over a period of months. So this is free to download because it will change and it'll give you an understanding of what's happening to your body and mind as well, and what changes are occurring for you. And that actually also gives you reassurance and it gives you more confidence. So this is really really quite a powerful tool. And when you go to see your doctor, you've got 10 minutes max. Some doctors, we've got 7-8 minutes. You're lucky if you can get out of there thinking, what did I say? What did he say? Have I got everything answered? go prepared. And this is a little bit cheeky, but it's well worth a try. Well, number one is always, when you're making an appointment, find out who is the best person to speak to, because it could be the practice nurse. So the best person to speak to about women's health. And then try and get a double appointment. They've got a lot to answer. So if you possibly can, try and get that double appointment, and then go through these symptoms. I'm not going to go through each one of them, I'm conscious of time, but one of the ones that answers a question that one of you mentioned earlier is, could the symptoms be due to something other than menopause? This is really important. You could be masking symptoms with the Mirena coil, with the contraceptive pill, with any other medication you might be on. So it's always worth presenting your symptoms and asking the question, could this be something to do with, could this be something other than menopause? And I think that's the most powerful question to ask to begin with. And then go down. They're there, they're free for you. Please do download them. You may want to add your own questions, but it's always really, really, really encourage you to be prepared. Leave that appointment feeling reassured, feeling heard, and knowing the options that are available to you. Now, they may offer you HRT. It's suitable, it's a lifesaver for some, but it's not suitable for all. Some people may choose not to go on it. Actually, only about 12% of women are on HRT in the UK. And sadly, for those, they're struggling to even get their prescription fulfilled because there seems to be a shortage. And that shortage has been going on for far, far too long. It's not, some people say to me, oh, I feel like I'm letting myself down by going on HRT. You're not. You're doing exactly what you need to do to help yourself at this time of your life, for you to enable you to live your best life. So there is no shame and there's no judgment around going on HRT for anybody that's hesitating about it. I went on it after I'd had my hysterectomy. It was totally appropriate. I was 39. I slapped on an HRT patch, and I decided that I would come off at 51 because that was the average age for menopause. And also the research around HRT at the time was really, really negative, and I didn't want to take that risk. So it was in that intervening time that I found out what I could do to help myself, and I did all sorts of training in all sorts of different things, including 3 years in nutrition. So I know that some of the things I'm sharing with you have, I class them as tools in a toolbox, have the ability to make a big difference to your life.
Claire,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt, just on that point, because there's a few interesting questions and people have shared some things just on the HRT. Oh, brilliant, you're there. Sorry, I'll just quickly go. We had Laura Howard, Laura Lawrence, Lara Burns and Sarah share some interesting experiences, which obviously people have been able to read, but just for your benefit. So Laura Howard, in terms of, you mentioned obviously the positivity and sort of menopause, would it fall under protective characteristic, i.e. disability? Within,
you mean within the workplace?
I assume so. Is that what you meant, Laura?
I wouldn't, I don't know that, to be fair. I'm not I'm not a lawyer regarding that, but there are cases now, there are examples now being taken to court for unfair dismissal, possibly due to menopause.
My partner's diabetic type 2, and I understand from a session we had actually this week that can be classed as a neuro disability, you know, not neuro, but a disability of sorts. So potentially that's something to be explored, isn't it? Laura,
could be, but you know, menopause is not a disease. No. It's a natural progression in women's life. It's just the reverse of puberty. But
I guess in terms of policies, there's thoughts around that, which I know we're working on as a company already. Laura mentioned obviously some personal experience. So her GP practice had a menopause expert who she was able to see, even though they weren't her normal GP, and she had to really push to get that. It really resonated with what you were saying about really don't give up.
Don't give up.
Lara mentioned she had perimenopause symptoms from the age of about 45, went to a doctor multiple times and was never told it could be menopause. It was only after her period stopped at 51 that the nurse finally said, let's talk about HRT. Yeah. And to your point, and then actually Sarah shared a personal experience of her daughter and really pushing, really doesn't seem to be giving up, which is fantastic to hear. And like you said, some of those checklists are even a really good way of really further evidencing, I suppose, if you like, from what you were saying. Yeah. And then Laura similarly shared her own personal experience of the early menopause or infertility or heavy period type experiences as a teenager. Teresa's got an interesting comment here. How do you know when to stop taking our HRT? And obviously you said everyone's different, but from a personal experience, you mentioned, I think that you decided to come off it, you know, when you did. Yeah. What prompted that, and can you take it for a long period of time, Laura said, or is that only a short fix? And that's where the nutrition bit comes in, I suppose.
Yeah, so it's I'm not medically trained, so I can't, you know, give very specific advice.
Sure.
I personally came off it because it was the 2000, 2001, 2002, and there was a lot of bad this is when Dr. Google started coming out. There was a lot of bad research about it, and I'd already determined that I wasn't prepared to take that risk. Also, this is just me as a personal thing. I hate taking pills and potions. I prefer to be drug-free. So that's as long as I possibly can. So, you know, that's a personal choice. And again, to answer your question, I think it's Laura, it is a personal choice when you choose to come off it. Now, there are some doctors that say that you can be on it for the rest of your life. This is my personal opinion, which is that I don't think there's sufficient research yet to show the effects of staying on it, negative or positive, of staying on it for life. So coming off HRT is entirely a personal choice. If or when you do, make sure that you wean yourself off it, because what you're doing is you're giving yourself a steady flow of estrogen and or progesterone into the body. And if you suddenly drop it, there is the potential for some symptoms to either reappear or appear. So I took 18 months nearly cutting a patch in half and leaving it on for longer, just to allow that estrogen level to actually decline more naturally.
Thanks, Claire. And Sarah asks, her own experience is that she's had a lot of symptoms, but not necessarily extreme. So she's always just carried on, as I'm sure I probably have at times. I'm not sure what my circumstances, but without any medical intervention. But recent information about HRT has made her now question whether it's something she should have looked into. Is it ever too late to look into it?
No, that's a question that you should definitely be asking your doctor. I don't know your age, Sarah, or your medical history or anything. That's something that you can definitely ask your doctor. I understand that at the moment with the noise around menopause, particularly from celebrities who are all on HRT, not seen any one of them say I manage this myself. There's a huge push towards women going on to HRT. And they say that it helps with osteoporosis, it helps with I'm going to say brain fog. It helps with your mental decline. It helps with your heart, etc., etc. I totally agree with that. But you can look after your heart and your brain and your bones without going on HRT. It's just not as quick a fix.
But that personal choice is about getting that balance, isn't it, for yourself?
Total personal choice. And whatever I'm going to share with you later, and say I can't go into it in huge detail because I haven't got the time to do that. But whatever I'm going to share with you later, and you're on HRT, do the two alongside each other, because should you decide to come off, it will help you come off, but it will also be helping you promote your best health and how you feel now. So. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire. I think we're good for questions for now, so we'll let you crack on. Conscious of time, it's 9:25.
I know.
The session's to finish at 10, so we've got plenty of time, Claire. Plenty of time.
I think I should probably do it the next 15-20 minutes, so that's good. Okay, so now to the good bit. Practicing self-care. Again, my arms might go on all over the place here, but I'll leave the video on. Anyway, So I must stress it's an holistic approach. I'll say it now and I'll say it again later. There is no single lotion, potion, pill or supplement that will cure all your menopause ills. It is finding out what's right for you. And I encourage you all to have tools in your toolbox that you can pull out and try as and when you need it. And I'll explore some of those with you, including some nutrition. So I mentioned, let me going on here, the negative menopause symptom cycle. And, you know, going back to this, every single one of those, well, we know it's stress, isn't it? It just adds to the stress of your life. If you're not sleeping well, if you're feeling absolutely shattered, how are you possibly going to spin all those plates that you're expected to spin, that others may expect you to spin? How can that be? How can that be possible? It can't. So there's this huge added stress that if we're not thinking clearly, if we're fatigued, if we're anxious, we can't function well in life. And it's that stress that is the greatest contributor to hormone imbalance. You can't stop that rise and the fall of estrogen. We can't stop that more gentle decline of progesterone. But what we can do is minimize the troughs and the highs so that the symptoms you experience are not as severe and or as frequent. I identify different sorts of stresses. There is external stress, internal stress, acute stress and chronic stress. And it's the external chronic stresses, those stresses that seem to go on and on and on, that have no, you just don't know when they're going to end, that are causing the greatest problems. The acute stresses are the saber-toothed tiger that's going to jump out of the bushes and bite your bum. So it's the external stresses, it's those continual chronic stresses that are contributing towards a hormone imbalance. And I'll explain exactly why that is. So here are some that you may relate to. So finances, personal relationships. You know, most divorces are instigated age 50 plus, just saying. There would be a reason for that. Children, you might have had your children late. If you've got any children, they might be leaving home. You might be running around doing the homework for them, like Lou this morning or last night. You might have aging parents that might need more care, that you need to look after. There's work. There's other health concerns. There's time management. You know, that plate spinning that's going on. How are you going to fit everything into your day? No wonder you're tired. And of course, and menopause. So basically, this is just life. This is taken from one of my online programs. It's life, isn't it? Add all those up: finances, relationships, children, aging parents, work, health, time management, menopause. That's life. That's so many women's life, particularly, you know, in midlife time. So what I'd like you to do is a little bit of a play, is think about the top 2 stresses, external stresses in your life, and mark them out of 10, with 10 being the highest. Like, you're so stressed, it's untrue. And let's find out where your stress bar is. And let's have a gap. So your top 2 external stresses in life, mark them out of 10, with 10 being the highest. And let's see where your stress bar is. Okay, so if you could just put in the chat, just give me your top one. You've got an image of this in your mind, but just give me the number for your top stress out of 10. Okay. Gosh, no wonder, Sarah. I put that at 11. Oh gosh. So thank you for sharing. Looking down these, you know, most of them are 8, 9, some 10s, and lowest 6, 7. And this is where this is where most people women I work with live. They live between 6 and 8, 7 and 9, and that's life. That's their stress hormones are up there, sometimes getting off the shelf, and that's how they're living their life. And let's look at how that impacts on your estrogen and progesterone. So your adrenal glands, 2 little walnut-shaped glands that sit atop your kidneys, maybe small, but my gosh, they do pack a punch. And this is just one of the pathways within the adrenal glands. They have so much to do. So this is the adrenal hormone synthesis pathway. We have cholesterol at the top. Cholesterol is not such a bad guy. It is a hormone as well as a fat, and we need it, but we need it in the right balance and the right proportion. And underneath cholesterol, there's a hormone called pregnenolone. And pregnenolone we refer to as the mother hormone because it does so much nurturing. But this declines naturally 60% with age. And that's important to bear in mind. Of pregnenolone, we have 2 arms. We've got progesterone on one side with cortisol, the stress hormone, beneath it. And on the other arm, DHEA, which is another hormone, which we're not going into today, but that also declines 80 to 90% with age. And off that is fed testosterone and estrogen. Now, your body doesn't know if it's a saber-toothed tiger or simply life. It has no difference in the biochemical change that occurs when your stress bar is raised. And because cortisol is so important to life, because it does think, oh my gosh, it could be a saber-toothed tiger, not an argument with your partner or your kids, it has first call on the hormone pregnenolone. And that leaves insufficient to share out to progesterone, DHEA, testosterone, and estrogen. So living your life 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11 on your stress bar is contributing towards the rise and fall of estrogen and the severity and frequency of the symptoms. Now we call this pregnenolone steal. Let me share with you the symptoms of pregnenolone steal. So how many of those do we just put down to menopause? A lot. If we can reduce that stress bar, if we this is a wow moment. Thank you for sharing, Teresa. This is a huge aha moment when I share this with clients. If we can reduce that stress bar, you can reduce the severity and frequency of a lot of those symptoms, because this raised stress bar is an internal stress. It creates an internal stress in the body. And though you may not be in control of those external stresses in your life that add up to life, you may not be in control of those, but you are absolutely in control of your internal stress, and you can do something about that. And that's what I'm going to share with you now. And of course, I'm going to mention diet. Can't go into it in a huge amount of detail and say I haven't got the time. So I'm going to briefly go through this and just share a couple more things with you as well. So I'm a great believer in things to include, not to exclude. If we constantly, I hate the word diet as well, I should change that to nutrition, because that implies short-term gain and deprivation. And this is not about deprivation. This is all about getting the right balance of nutrients that's right for you at this time of life. And if you think about it, as you're going through life, you've needed different balance of nutrients at various times. So this is how to get the right balance of nutrients at this time of life. And I'm going to keep this really, really simple. But in this slide, I'm just sharing with you why some of these foods are so important. And the question that somebody asked earlier about HRT, you can see that bone health and heart health and brain health is all included here. and you've got that balance right, you will be nurturing your body. So water restores your mucous membranes, and every orifice in your body is lined with a mucous membrane. As estrogen levels drop, those mucous membranes can dry out, and sadly, that can lead to vaginal dryness, more UTIs. Vaginal dryness is something that, if you think menopause is taboo, that's definitely taboo, and that definitely contributes to so many potential problems with relationships. Your brain is 80% water. How can you think clearly if you haven't got water in there? And I'm talking about water, I'm not talking about liquid. Water and herbal teas and juices and smoothies all contribute towards your water intake, and I'll share with you in a sec what that should be. Being hydrated also will reduce the frequency and severity of hot flushes. Lovely to see you drinking water, Lou. Omega-3s. Now, these omega-3s come from oily fish, nuts and seeds, and avocados. They're not omega-3s, but they're still a good fat. A lot of people don't like the oily fish. A lot of people avoid nuts and seeds because they think they're high in calories, or avocados because they're high in calories. But you know, it's called an essential fat. It's essential we give it to our body. Our body cannot make it ourselves. I can give you a whole half hour just on how essential it is to the body. But please bear in mind, don't count the calories of anything that is that's from the omega-3 family, because these omegas are used for metabolic purposes. They're not stored as fuel. I'll answer your question in a sec, Laura. Fiber. For digestive health and hormone imbalance, you get that from fresh fruit and vegetables. You can get that from soluble fiber like oats. And yeah, so getting lots of fresh fruit and veg will help with the fiber, keeps your digestive health going. Your digestion, again, I haven't got time to go into that today, but your digestive system is intrinsically linked with balancing all hormones in your body, not just estrogen and progesterone. And it's really important you look after your digestive health. Calcium-rich foods for bone and heart health, and I'm not necessarily meaning fill yourself full of cheese and milk here. There are lots of other calcium-rich foods that you can get. Sesame seeds, for example, are high in it. Phytoestrogens, you may have heard of this, particularly if you're thinking soya. Soya is a phytoestrogen. I'm not a great lover of soya if it's not organic. 97% of the world's soya is genetically modified, and so you don't get those benefits from it. But phytoestrogens are basically plants that have an mild estrogenic effect on the body. So pulses, beans, chickpeas, etc. are phytoestrogens. High quality proteins. So here, what I'm talking about is you don't have to have meat with every meal. We actually need only about 15 to 20% of our diet to be from protein, and from any source, that whether you're vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, carnivore, whatever, you only need 15 to 20% of your diet to be protein. And if you are a meat eater, I suggest that you eat less, but spend the same amount of money on the best quality that you can get. You need that for muscle mass. Our muscles deteriorate as estrogens drop. You know, everything goes south, doesn't it? It's just like, you know, the bingo wings. We need it to maintain muscle mass. We need it for bone health, to keep our metabolism high, because our metabolism naturally slows with age, and that contributes towards that seemingly inevitable weight gain, and also for our immune health. And everything should be from natural produce to help with your weight management, your energy, and your sleep. This is not shopping mostly in the central aisles of a supermarket. So I haven't got the time to go into those in great detail, but I will like to focus on what I call my foundation stones, and that's water and omega-3s. So I have a little question for you. You should be drinking a minimum of 2 litres of water a day. Now, water, when I say water, it could be water, it could be herbal teas, it could be juices or smoothies. It should always, always, always be more than the sum of all other fluids combined. So, little question for you here. How much water do you drink a day? That's a pretty good split. 54% say not enough. You're not alone. And 45% say they do their 2 litres or 2 litres plus. So I cannot stress. I mean, this is the most important foundation stone. It is completely free. It costs you nothing. The difference if you only drank water for a week, cut out the caffeine and alcohol, well, reduced it anyway, then the difference to how you feel will be incredible. And it will certainly help with reducing hot flushes and reducing that internal stress bar. This is something you can do that's really, really simple and really, really, it's just free. So do it. And omega-3s, I mentioned that this is one of my foundation stones. And omega-3s, I mentioned the foods that they come from. If you can make sure that you include those in your diet, then you will be doing yourself such a service and really, really helping your hormones. And you need these two, actually, you need these two in place. I call them a foundation stones because you need those in place to be able to get the best benefits from all the other foods that you have. Because remember, Gillian McKeith said you are what you eat. Well, actually, it should be much more than that. You are what you eat. You are what you can absorb. You are what you can utilize. And you, importantly, are what you can excrete. And you can have the best diet in the world, but if you can't do all those 4, then you're not going to be helping yourself. And you need water and omega-3s to be able to do that. So that's my big message to you today with regarding nutrition. And I also mentioned before balance. It should be as much natural products. 70 to 80% of your food should come from nature. And that's what it's there for. In its natural form. It's there to nurture us. 15 to 20% should come from protein sources, and there's lots of different protein sources. It's not just meat and cheese. There's nuts and there's seeds and eggs and lots of different sources. And 5 to 10% from those healthy fats. The nuts, the seeds, the salmon, the mackerel, olive oil, the avocados, and they say don't be frightened to put these into your diet. If you're calorie counting, these are used for metabolic purposes. They are not used for fuel at all. So you can see from this picture the glorious colours that are here, absolutely fantastic. And what we should be looking to do is eat the colours of the rainbow, because each of those colours provides us with nutrients that have very specific effects. So this is not a poll, but it's just a little bit of a question for you. How many colours of the rainbow have you eaten? Well, it's early in the morning, but think about yesterday. How many colours of the rainbow have you eaten yesterday? Or did you eat yesterday? See, nature doesn't make much that's brown and beige. And she certainly doesn't make anything that comes out of a bottle or a can. And she doesn't do anything that's gone through a food process. So my advice to you here is eat natural. Always talking about including, I do have to add a little bit of, hate to say it, things to avoid, but have you noticed I've not say do not. Life is about living, isn't it? We've got to enjoy it. We've got to look forward to things. But these are some things that you should consider reducing or avoiding. That choice is yours. And do keep a hot flush diary, because each of these will contribute towards hot flushes and also poor moods and things. But anyway, hot flushes particularly, caffeine contributes towards hot flushes and poor sleep. Most people's livers can cope with a couple of cups of caffeine a day, but your liver during menopause liver is the controller, and it's a planner, and it's the manager, and it's doing its damnedest to keep you as healthy and on a balance as much as it possibly can, and trying to manage these fluctuating hormones. So anything we can do to reduce the stress on the hormone and love your liver will be a benefit. and that includes alcohol as well. Refined sugars and carbs contribute towards diabetes, weight gain, and poor mood. Basically, those are the white sugars and the white carbohydrates, the processed ones. Just cut them out. And it's hard to begin with, I know that, but you can get headaches as you actually as you cut out caffeine, alcohol, and refined sugars and carbs. You can actually get headaches as your body like detoxes from it, and you get that craving, and I must do it. And there's also emotions go behind refined carbs and sugars and things, isn't it? You know, when we're feeling down, we're feeling stressed, it's what we reach out for to make us feel good. So have a look at that. Poor quality fats, those are mostly found in the food processing industry, contribute towards heart disease, weight, and aches and pains. Really common symptom, aches and pains in menopause. And processed foods, they contain chemicals that are hormone disruptors. So just try and keep those to a minimum. I just want to finish off. I mentioned that it's an holistic approach. There is no one size fits all. It's mental, emotional, and everything else. I just want to finish off with this. This little fairy at the front with a magic wand is to show you that, just illustrate yet again, there is no single answer to curing all menopause ills. It is an holistic approach. Even if you're on HRT, and again, it doesn't cure, even if you're on it, it might not cure all your menopause woes. So I encourage you all to practice this regardless, because this is what's going to create your best life through menopause and beyond. Talked about healthy food, talked about hydration. Movement is so important. Whatever you're doing now, just do a little bit more. Don't suddenly go, oh, I'm going to do couch to 5K, or I'm going to run a marathon or whatever. Sometimes if we set ourselves goals, those goals can seem so far away that we can't actually achieve it, so we give up. So just do a little bit more than you're actually doing now. Believe in yourself. You can do this. Menopause is not a disease. It is a natural part of life, and you have the power to be the best person that you can be. Part of that is learning to say no. Ooh, that's really hard, isn't it? You know, we spend life, don't we, meeting a lot of the time meeting other people's expectations rather than our own. So it's okay to say no. The first couple of times can be difficult, but oh, it's so empowering after you've done that. It's great. But you do it for the right reasons, not just because you want to be mean or something. Sleep well. It's easy for me to say that and put that up there, but there is something called sleep hygiene. I'll just put that in there. You can Google, have I spelled that right? Yeah. You can Google that and find like 10 or 12 points to help you sleep better at night. Love yourself. We are so unkind to ourselves with the words that we use, aren't we? We don't treat ourselves like we would do our best friend or someone we love. We beat ourselves up. We are the most judgmental person in the world. It's time to stop that. It's time to pick, when you realize you're doing it, it's time to stop it. And it's time to change the words that you use on yourself. You are not nurturing your body. You are not reducing your internal stress. You are not creating the very best health of your body and mind if you go around beating yourself up all the time. So learn how to chill, reduce that stress bar. There's so many ways you can do that. Laughing a lot. Find something to laugh at when you're talking to a colleague around the water fountain about the awful symptoms that you've got. There's humor in everything. Find something just tangible to like hang on to and have a laugh. Find reasons to laugh. But most importantly, whether you are at home or at work, get the support that you feel that you need. Put your hand up. There is no shame in asking for support. It's not a weakness. It's actually a strength. So get the help that you personally need. So that's me. I've got a free download that you can get from our website. It looks at the nurturing of the mind and the body. Just takes you 9 days. I guide you through it. I hold your hand all the way through it. You're welcome to download that. And I'll just finish off with the last 10 minutes for any questions.
Well done, Claire. That was fabulous. I absolutely love that. And the laughing thing for me, yeah, I had a negative experience a few years back with my separation and divorce, but and I struggled to laugh, and I'm someone with the most positive outlook on everything. And for the first time in my whole life, I was really finding unenjoyment in so many things because I was just under so much stress and anxiety, and I really resonate with that thing. And someone who laughs at everything, it was very difficult. And actually, from a work perspective and a leadership perspective, we have been actively encouraging our colleagues to come into the office for that reason, to be able to enjoy each other in the presence of each other and really have a good belly laugh in the office. And I think that's been the fundamental, reason for a lot of it. We're really actively encouraging this flexible working and remote working, absolutely, because it works, right? But and there's the whole benefits of we all know, but getting that balance right is so important. But Claire, I personally thought that was absolutely fantastic. You really took us on a journey then. So thank you so much. That's great. Has anyone got any questions for Claire that they want to ask directly? We've had lots through the session, but is there anything specific anyone would like to know?
Hit me with it.
Claire, personally, we've shared a few links. The positivity information was great. I think that poster is going to be going up in most offices and homes, because it's just fab. It's just such a simple, but it's a visual thing as well. And like you say, just giving a central point for someone to look at it, glance at it, talk about it in the kitchen when they're making a nice herbal cup of tea or something would be really good. Has anyone got anything else? We are obviously going to edit and remove any personal content for this, but Holly's going to be working hard on that. She's fantastic. So this will go get sort of saved and posted somewhere. I'm not sure where, but let me just I'll just leave you with the last slide of the day, if that's okay, just to capture any other references if anyone wants any. Bear with me. Just quickly.
While you're doing that, I'd just like to say the people that are left, I'm a long way post-menopause, and I'd just like to share that there is a fantastic bright light waiting for you all on the other side. You're more confident, you're more in control. There's a fantastic sense of freedom that you may not feel that you've experienced before. So don't give up. You are worth this effort.
Oh, thanks, Claire. And I'll just leave you with this, just a few very fancy QR codes for you to connect with myself, with Claire, or go to our Crimson LinkedIn events page, where Holly, our marketing exec, is fantastic at updating you with lots of lovely resources, lots of lovely blogs, and lots of connecting of networks and forums that we share as well. So just great. Well, Claire, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Really inspiring, and like I said, a lovely journey there, sharing your own experience, but with some really useful hints and tips. So thank you so much. Great, everyone. Well, we'll leave it there, shall we? My pleasure. And as always, and we look forward to seeing you on our next event. Laura, beautiful to see you as always, looking radiant there. And yeah, thank you ever so much, guys. Thank you, Holly, and thank you, Christine, as well, for your input putting this together. Well done, everyone. Enjoy. Get drinking lots of water. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.